Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing. Today I'm creating my Sunday's Art of Truth entitled Your Story is Far From Over, creating on this 12 by 12 gallery depth wood panel. These are some of the background papers I'll be using from SeanPetite.com collage packs. I also pulled out a variety of her stencils. I did not use all of them, but I do use a few. You can check out all of her product line as well as her collage packs at SeanPetite.com. I'll be using my Liquitex matte medium to apply all of my papers. I do cut out a lot of this process because it's fairly redundant, the collaging, but I'll show you snippets as we move along. I do wrap the pages around the sides of the canvas as well, or the wood panel, excuse me. I really love that effect, that wrapped effect of having the collaging on all sides as I'm working on a 1.5 inch depth wood panel. This is one of Sean's new collage packs. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the colors. I love the vintage wallpapers, and they're just gorgeous to work with. And I'm using this vintage envelope in the center of the piece. And it doesn't end up really showing up, but I really liked it, and so I wanted to use it. Often when we create our backgrounds using collaging, things don't show up that we want to have show up, and things do show up that we didn't expect. So it is just part of the process. And there you can see that I did wrap the papers around the sides. I did some of that off camera because I can't raise my piece up and stand it up because it will hit the camera. So I'm a little bit limited in my space here. So I'm going to use some gesso and push back that background using my small brayer here. One of the benefits of using the gesso is it creates this really gritty surface that the other mediums will kind of sink into, and it creates a really beautiful texture. So I'm using some raw umber fluid acrylic and mixing it with gesso here and using my brayer to spread that around. Sean did this in her recent video and I really liked it. I think I applied a little bit too much, which I hope to do differently next time, but I do wipe some of it back until I'm satisfied. It creates just a really nice overall background, I think. I'm going to be using Daler and Rowney acrylic inks in Indian yellow, olive green, and turquoise. And I'll be using some water to kind of make that spread. The turquoise was more opaque than I expected it to be, so I kind of make this move around a little bit, and I do wipe quite a bit of it off. Not wasting the acrylic paint or the acrylic ink, I do use what's on my baby wipe to apply that color to the edges. Everything that I do to the side, or to the top, excuse me, I do also on all the edges. Again, I'm working with a fairly deep panel, and so it's really a great piece to do that on. I'm just sopping a little bit of that up. It was a little bit overpowering. And I'm going to be also using, this is the olive green. Just applying it here and there. And I just use my fingers to kind of spread it around. I really like the olive green. It's very transparent, so you can see a lot of the background papers behind it. In the end, a lot of the background papers are not visible. If you look really close, you can see them. But they tell the story. The background papers, in my opinion, always tell the story of the process of creating a particular piece, which I think is just as important as the end product. The thought process and the emotional journey that we take when we create is really important in the creative process, and I think it has a lot of value. Even though you as the viewer on the other side can't necessarily see all that is behind the piece unless we tell you what's behind the piece, which I will. The piece is actually my Sunday's Art of Truth that will be on my website on Sunday, July 26th. And so you'll be able to read the blog post that talks a lot about this process, as well as what inspired me, and kind of what the story is behind it is really impactful. So I hope that you'll check that out. And I'll be sure to put all that information in the video description so you can check it out. Just a little bit more of that turquoise in the upper right-hand corner. I lost a lot of the color in the end, but I believe there was a couple of factors that played into that. One being a raw umber glaze that I did over the whole piece, as you'll be able to see here shortly, as well as I think that I mixed some of this, some magenta and the green at various stages of this process, and that will actually make mud. Red and green don't play well together. They complement each other beautifully, but when they're mixed together, they create kind of a muddy color, and I think that might have been part of what was going on here in this piece. But it all works out in the end. I don't believe that there are mistakes in mixed media. We are always learning as long as we continue trying. And I believe that there's a reason for the things that we choose and the things that we do. And so not to say I don't get frustrated, but I know that there's a reason and there's something to learn from it. So I think that's really important as we're exploring our creative journey. I'm going to be using Sean Petit's large door stencil to create my focal point. The door being the actual focal image. The brick wall is nice, and it has its place, but the door is definitely where this piece is centered around. I'll be using my Liquitex Heavy Gesso to apply that stencil design to my substrate. And I didn't obviously gesso the doorway because I want that to actually be open. As you'll be able to read in the blog post, there's a reason for that in this piece. And you'll see as we move along, I do also decide to bring in a crystal doorknob, which as I was doing that, and this is my third voiceover because something's wrong with my editing software. So this is a little bit sore throat kind of voiceover, but it's okay. So as I was doing one of the other voiceovers, I realized I was applying a crystal knob to an area on the canvas that doesn't have a door, and it doesn't have a door on purpose. So, but that will be part of the story. So when you read the blog post, you'll kind of get the behind the scenes thinking and processing about a crystal knob on a door that doesn't exist and what the meaning of that is for me. And I hope that it will be an inspiration and an encouragement to you. So now I'm using Sean Petit's Paris Flourish 2 stencil, using my Heavy Gesso again. And then just a little bit there on the lower right-hand corner, just to create a little bit of interest there. And there's my quote, "Your story is far from over." I did print it out on a piece of tissue paper, setting that aside just to think about where I wanted that, was kind of why I had it in my hands. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the raw umber glaze using my golden fluid acrylic in raw umber and my golden glazing medium. In retrospect, I kind of wish that I hadn't done the glaze over the entire piece, but we live and learn. And hopefully in the next experiment, I will not do that and see if I can get a different result. Because I believe that it did dull down some of my color, and I had to go back and really finesse the piece up to bring some of that color back, and I was not able to get it all back. I am still learning, even though I do play and create a lot. I am still learning a lot about the process and kind of the steps and the order of things. And then here I'm just wiping some of that back because I wanted to make sure I didn't have anything dark in that doorway. I wanted that to really be open and bright, which is part of the story again. And then just using my finger and some of that glaze to just apply some of that darker color to kind of seep into that texture, create a little bit of a darker effect in places. And then here I'm coming in with that acrylic ink again. This is the Indian Yellow. Really, really want to brighten up that doorway. Again, it's the focal point, so I wanted it to be really striking and really bright. Got way too much of the quinacridone magenta there. So I did wipe that up a little bit. I don't waste that though, because everything that's going on that wipe is going to be used to go around the edges of the canvas as well, which I don't show on video again because my camera sits too close to my surface and I can't really pick the piece up without hitting the camera. So I do everything I do to the top, I do on the sides as well. And then just applying a little bit of that green also. And then I went ahead and cut down that quote just down to this little rectangle. I'm going to be applying it with my Liquitex matte medium to the left-hand side of the door, because as I mentioned before, I'm going to be putting a crystal knob on this door, this doorway that doesn't have a door. So again, we'll see what inspiring comes out of that when I sit down and write the blog post. But again, it has a purpose, so I don't believe that there are any accidents in mixed media. So, especially when we're working intuitively and we're working from our hearts, a heart place. So, as you can see there, I was a little bit rough with the matte medium, and I did tear the tissue paper. I'll come in with a black permanent marker and fix that, just that tip of that Y. I was fortunate to not have destroyed more of it. So that was nice. The tissue paper is really cool though, because if I had ruined it, I would just wipe it up and do it again. It wouldn't have been a big deal. And then I just decided, in order to try to brighten up that right-hand side, I would come in with some of the fluid acrylics by Golden. So this is cadmium yellow hue. And then I do also come in with the quinacridone magenta. And then I use the turquoise acrylic ink on the right side as well. It did brighten it up somewhat, not as much as I would have liked. And I think that, again, that's in large part because of the glaze that I did, which I won't do that the same in the future. At least not when. I think that's why I end up with a lot of dark results on my pieces, is because I do a glaze a lot. So I may try to play around with doing something a little bit different. I tend to stick to what I know, not that I'm not willing to learn, but it's harder for me to step out of that, what I'm used to doing. So I need to definitely work on that. I apologize. My throat is a little sore as this is the third voiceover. So I'm running out of sound here. And then there's just that turquoise, and that's the Daler and Rowney acrylic ink. And then this is the quinacridone magenta that I mentioned. And I believe I did not dry here. And so I think that part of what might be happening here is if there was any green that's mixing with that quinacridone magenta, I'm going to get a muddy color. And I think that that is also part of what created this kind of dull and darker effect here on the right-hand side. Coming in with some of that, some of the paints to kind of disguise the border of that tissue paper. I don't really like to see those lines, and so I try a variety of things to kind of conceal it. I was successful in the end. I just had to fuss with it quite a bit to make that go away. And I had toyed with applying some more matte medium, but I had already torn the tissue paper and I didn't want to risk it. Because in this technique, the more matte medium you use, the more your tissue paper is going to blend into the background without those lines. So maybe I didn't have enough. I'm not really sure. On this, if you catch the top of the doorway there, the arch, I think is just quite beautiful because it almost looks like there's flowers there, which, again, nothing happens by accident. So that is going to be a part of the story as well, as you'll be able to read on the blog. I'm just going back and forth playing with those colors until I'm happy. Giving it a good heat set because I want to make sure that I don't create a bigger problem than I've already encountered here on this piece. So giving it a good dry there. I decided I would go ahead and try the old alcohol technique. So I applied a little bit of alcohol onto my baby wipe, and I'm using that to wipe back some of that paint, hoping to kind of lift some of the dark colors out. In person, at this point in time, it was really beneficial. In the end, I still don't think that it really resolved the issue that I had. But I did learn something from this process, and that is important to me. That's how we learn, is just playing, and just being lighthearted about it is really important. Because no matter what I tried here, I just could not get that magenta to have an impact on that right side. So I'm not sure what that was about, but I do kind of rectify that when I come in with some soft pastels later on. Off camera, I did apply the knob. I cut that out because it was a really frustrating process for me, partly because I was feeling a little lazy and it was super hot outside and I didn't want to go get the drill. And so I was trying to make a hole for that knob and the screw to go through without getting a drill. So I did not make you suffer through that, but I really love the effect of that crystal knob. So, and I'm excited to write the blog post and see how that plays out in the story, because I believe that it has a meaning there, that there's a knob on a door that doesn't exist. So it's interesting. So I'm getting out my Soho soft pastels, and I'm feeling a little jabbery today. So I apologize. That might just be because this is the third voiceover, but it is what it is. So just choosing a few colors. I don't know the color names because I threw the box away when I got them, but pretty much just picking colors that are similar to the ones that I used in the acrylic paint or the acrylic ink. Just kind of trying to bring a little bit of that color back in. I think it helped some, but the soft pastels also, in my opinion, create some of a dull effect because they're chalky. And so that again might be part of what happened here on this piece. So we'll have to see. I'll keep trying. I'm not a quitter. And I did decide to come in with this script stamp and apply it here and there on the canvas as well as on the cobblestones. It is the one I used in a previous video that's kind of a fairy tale script that says, once upon a time and happily ever after, and it talks about Cinderella and things like that. So I thought it was also very fitting for this piece. And I did also, I can't remember now if I failed to mention it, but I did do all of my shading around all of the bricks and the cobblestones. Time is kind of running together at this point, so I appreciate your patience as I kind of try to finish this up. I did put the full stamp on the cobblestones here, which in retrospect, I kind of wish I hadn't done, but at the time it felt like it fit with what I was thinking and what I was feeling as I was creating. And so it is okay. And it will be incorporated into the blog post and the story about how this piece came together. So it all has a meaning. And here I'm just going to come in with my permanent marker and just fix that Y. Not too bad of a boo-boo there, so that was easily fixed. So I hope that you'll head on over to my blog at B.Rebornart.com and you can read the blog post about this process. As well as if you haven't liked and subscribed to my channel, I sure hope that you would take the opportunity to do that. I would love to see you here and be able to continue to create for you. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all of those things. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you'd like to see. I would be more than happy to provide some tutorials and some experiences that are along the lines of what you're looking for. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the photos. Thanks. Bye-bye.